She's a little girl and she doesn't need to have her hardest moments recorded by strangers who are standing there gawking and broadcast for whoever it is that they wanted to broadcast it for. Today I am going to be talking about autism, meltdowns, and what to do if you see a meltdown occurring in public, or more specifically, what not to do if you see a autism meltdown occurring in public. What not to do has to do with your camera phone and the impulse to share anything a little bit out of the ordinary with the entire world. And that is what we're talking about right now. If you've watched my channel for a while, you know that it is my policy not to show meltdowns, and I am not going to break from that policy today. Although I've spent the last hour wondering whether or not there's videos of Maggie and I out there floating around because of the events of today and because of the way that the people that were there, well, where we were when the meltdown occurred, responded. It was rough, and I'm going to be sore later. We had decided that we wanted to do some sightseeing. The kids were going a little stir crazy. It had been raining all morning, and it had finally stopped raining. And the kids are big enough that going to see Plymouth Rock is something that's exciting. Now, for anyone who doesn't know, Paul grew up in Plymouth, and so we come back about every year, but we don't always go down and see Plymouth Rock, and I can't remember whether or not we did last year with all the kids. We always drive by it multiple times, but we don't always walk down there. And so this year, now that the boys are getting older, I really, really wanted to take them and walk down there. And so we did. And it was going really, really well at first, right up until the moment when we got to the rock. I was a little nervous because the rock is kind of inside this, I don't even know how to describe it, because the rock is down, you're looking down at it where it is in the sand down below, and Maggie has a tendency to throw things down. Well, as you know, if you watch the channel regularly, Maggie always has these papers in her hands that she loves. One of her favorite things to do, and generally other small little toys. Today it was like this little Candyland piece that she had swiped the other day from Boston Children's, and she's been hauling that thing around with her everywhere and chewing on it and just playing with it constantly. Well, so I was watching her, and I was actually keeping her back from the edge of the rock because I was really, really worried that she was going to throw stuff down into that neatly raked, perfect area where Plymouth Rock is. There's a park ranger standing there, there's a crowd. I did not want us to be the people that threw litter down onto Plymouth Rock. Like, we had the whole fishing debacle last month, and I just didn't want that to be us today. And so I was keeping her back from the edge. I was really, really keeping an eye on that hand. But Maggie had no interest in the rock. Paul and the kids were looking at it, and Maggie wanted to go look at the ocean. And so she walks over around the other side where there's a clear view of the ocean, and she's looking at it. And then she takes her little hand and she throws her little Candyland guy down onto the beach, which we can't get to from there. And we'd already told the kids we were not going to go down on the beach there. We were going to go to the beach later, someplace else where there's a nice beach that you can walk on. We weren't going to be climbing down the rock walls onto the beach there at the waterfront. So she threw her little guy down there onto the water, and then she melted down. The meltdown started, and my first thought was to get her away from the crowd because there were maybe, 30 people there. It felt crowded, although it wasn't as crowded as it soon was going to be. So I got her across the street where there was this grassy open area, and I got her into the shade under a tree, and my plan was basically just to let her have her moment and calm herself down, because it's really, really rare for her to be upset for more than a minute or two. Usually she's able to calm herself down really quickly, and it doesn't usually last long. And then, but it lasted longer this time, and it started escalating. And so I told Paul to take the other kids and to keep walking because Tessie was getting really upset. And I didn't especially really want to see Tessie. I didn't really want Tessie and James to see the way that she was getting upset there, and for them to get more upset, especially because those two are really, really close to Maggie. And I mean, they're little. I don't know. I didn't yet know how bad of a meltdown it was going to be, but it was about to be, I guess, the worst meltdown we'd ever had. It lasted for about half an hour. I can tell you that I was seriously concerned that someone was going to... I wondered at points whether someone was going to call the police. There wasn't really anything that I can... Usually I can make it better, and there wasn't really anything that I could do to make it better. And about 4 times I thought I'd had her calm down, and then it just spiked back up again. And the crowd over at the Rock was getting bigger and bigger, and I could tell that a lot of the people there were just standing there staring at us, which, whatever, it doesn't matter. There were people across the street staring at us. There was a woman on her phone that just stood there on her phone staring at us the whole entire time, and she actually recorded us when we walked away. She was recording us, so at first I thought maybe she was just on her phone, but then when she got her little iPad thing and recorded us and was recording our whole family when we walked to the car, I realized that she had been doing that, so that was interesting. I got pretty beat up. It was really good that they'd done some trainings with me on some different things last week. Thing is, at almost 70 pounds of basically solid muscle, she's extremely strong, and so it wasn't like I could just pick her up and carry her to our car, which was about a quarter of a mile away at that point. I really had to wait this thing out. There was no way that I could move her. And Paul has a bad back. Paul has 5 ruptured discs in his back. He can't carry her. I'm more capable of moving her, and I can carry her pretty far, but I wasn't willing to risk having to set her down on the ground and having her bash her head on cement instead of on the soft grass. It was rough, and Paul was over where Paul was, which Paul couldn't see us, and Paul was farther away, but there were people going by apparently talking about us, and of course that wasn't what he heard. What he was hearing wasn't flattering, which I guess leads me to the point of this post. This went on for half an hour. When we left, there was probably a crowd of, I would estimate, about 60 people there, and some were recording us. When she finally got up and we walked away together, about 90% of the people who were there also left. So that crowd was there to basically watch her meltdown and beat on me. And 0 people asked if we needed help. 0 people approached us. There was one couple that was walking their dog by with their baby, and when they came by the first time, I said, "Oh, Maggie, look, a puppy," because I was trying anything at that point. It had gone on for so long. And she stopped melting down for a second. She stopped crying for a second, and she looked over at the dog, and they walked by another 4 times and would stop very, very close to us with their dog, who I think was actually like a pit bull or a pit bull mix. And they'd stop really close to us with their dog and just kind of let him hang out there. And I think that was intentional once they realized that he was calming her down. They never got too close to us or anything like that. They probably kept about 10 or 15 feet between us. But I was really thankful for them, because I think they were doing that intentionally. Because they would make a round around the whole entire park, and then they would come back and kind of hang out near us. And so I was really grateful for them. But during the entire thing, no one spoke to us. Nobody did anything except stare. So what I would say is that if you see a kid melting down like we had today, the least helpful thing that you can do is stand and stare at them or record the situation for your own viewing pleasure or to share with your friends and family and the internet at large. That's just not helpful. If you see a child who is having a really hard time in public and it looks wildly inappropriate, maybe she's not just a really bad parent with a really bratty kid, especially if the kid doesn't seem like they're verbal, if they're making sounds that like maybe a toddler or are just totally abnormal, maybe there's something going on that you don't understand. And if you don't have anything helpful to add to the situation, going on your way instead of like standing in a huge crowd is probably the best way to go, because standing and filming and staring definitely are not helpful. I imagine that most of the people watching this video probably know this. There was definitely a point today where I would have appreciated anyone coming over and just being like, hey, do you need help? Or just saying like, hey, hi you guys, how are you doing? Are you okay? Or maybe not the how are you doing, because I mean, obviously. Anyways, if you see a parent, sometimes when we're having a hard time, even with Maggie, it can help for someone to come over and just like say hi and talk to her, because sometimes even during a meltdown, just that hello, that not interference, but kind of like interference, that it being broken up, like, hey, how are you, being talked to by someone other than me, someone who's not part of our family, can kind of cut into the routine, the build-up, and can stop it. And maybe it won't help. Maybe I'll say, no, it's okay, I've got it. Or maybe I will need help. I don't know. I'm not sure what I would have done today if someone needed help. Honestly, there was a point probably near the 20-minute mark where I was like, it wouldn't be so bad if someone called the police. Maggie really, really likes policemen. She talks about, there have been a lot of points where if you ask her what she wants to be when she grows up, she'll say policeman. And she gets excited when she sees a policeman or a police car. And so there was a point today where I was thinking, well, if someone calls the police, like that lady on her phone who wouldn't stop staring at me and standing there and looking disapproving, who recorded us, if she calls the cops and they come over, I think that might snap her out of it. And the dog did it, kind of, in a way. And then finally there's this script that she does when she's kind of coming out of things. And finally, when I heard that script, I was like, okay, we're getting there. And then finally it was just over. Because as fast as it can go from 0 to 60, it can go from 60 to 0 too. It was over. She was fine. She got up. She walked over to the statue. We stood at the statue. Poor Sadie, she right now is at a point where she's so mortified by public meltdowns. And I think really part of that is also that, we've probably now had 2 in the last 4 years. Like, this is the second one this week, and it's also the second one in the last 4 years. So we haven't had a lot of public meltdowns. Meltdowns happen, but they usually only happen at home. And she's 11, and this is just not the age that she wants everyone looking at our family, because her little sister, who is way too big to be screaming, is what she's thinking, is screaming. I mean, she's embarrassed when the boys whine in public. She's like, oh my gosh, you guys are so embarrassing, please stop. So Maggie doing this, and it's not like she can say please stop to Maggie, because I know I'm rambling. This wasn't the video I was planning on making today. I do have another video because we did end up going to the beach afterwards. She calmed down, we went to the beach, and she rocked it at the beach. She had an awesome time. We all had an awesome time, which is exactly what we needed. But the thing is, I know what causes the meltdowns. We have more meltdowns when we are off, when we're traveling, when there's birthdays, when we're doing exciting things, all things that have happened. Maggie does really, really well when she's on schedule, and she has a really, really hard time when there are exciting things going on. Like, she'll be excited about them, she'll be happy about them, she'll be looking forward to them, but with the same up of the things like going on vacation and having birthdays, there's also a down. That's what I really wanted to talk about today. Meltdowns. And if you see someone in public, a caregiver, a parent, anyone, just a person having a meltdown, either help them or get out of the way. Don't stare, don't take a video. Just don't. I'm not putting that out there. You shouldn't be either. I mean, I know we're in public. I know it's legal to take videos of people in public, but legal and moral aren't always the same thing. And what a lot of people were doing today just wasn't right. She's a little girl, and she doesn't need to have her hardest moments recorded by strangers who are standing there gawking and broadcast for whoever it is that they wanted to broadcast it for. That is it for today. If you like this video, I'd love it if you'd give it a thumbs up. And if you're interested in all things autism, I'd love it if you'd hit subscribe. And tomorrow will be happier because we did have a blast at the beach, and I feel like this serious subject deserves a more lighthearted video tomorrow too, because there's nothing Maggie loves as much as she loves going to the ocean.